A picture is worth 1,000 words, but a poem is worth 1,000 pictures. That's a quote by the accomplished photographer John Carter Bush. But unfortunately, most people don't share in his opinion. Come on, let's face it. When most people hear the word poetry, they can't help but wince. What do you think of when you hear the word poetry? Chances are it's not something good. But, contrary to popular belief, at least among high schoolers, poetry actually isn't that bad. Hold on. Let me explain. To really understand poetry, it helps to understand the people who understand poetry. One individual in particular was named Richard Wilbur. You may have heard of him. Now, Richard Wilbur was not just an ordinary guy. He grew up in the World War II era. Time for a quick little history lesson. Following in the footsteps of both his father and grandfather, Richard Wilbur showed an interest in journalism early on in his life. He attended Amherst College in the fall of 1938 and became the chairman of the college newspaper, the Amherst Student, writing stories, editorials, and poems. In the year 1942, Wilbur graduated and married, hold on for this name, Mary Charlotte Hayes Ward. He married her the same year he joined the enlisted reserve corps. In 1943, he was called into active duty in Europe, where he served until 1945. And many say, including Wilbur himself, that this militant experience helped form his first collection, The Beautiful Changes and Other Poems. I think it speaks for itself, doesn't it? Wilbur earned an astonishing number of awards for his spectacular poetry, including 2 Pulitzers. Now, most people would be lucky to get one. Most people would be lucky to get half of one. Heck, I'd be lucky to even have my name said in the same sentence as one. But hey, this guy got 2. Later, in 1987, he was named the 2nd Poet Laureate of the US, following Robert Penn Warren. Don't know what that is? Don't worry about it. Just know that it's pretty darn cool. For smart people. Wilbur wrote many poems over his lifetime. Some quite long, others as short as 1 sentence. Now those are the poems that I would love to write. Through his poems, he expressed ideas meant to help the world, and many believe that he has done just that. Even to this day, Wilbur's works are revered by individuals all around the world. His lifespan lasted from his birth on March 1st, 1921, to his recent death on October 14th, 2017. He died at the age of 96. And I'd be lucky to live through college. Now, let's take a look at one of Wilbur's poems. And although I'm not even really big into poetry myself, this is one that I actually really enjoy. It's called Boy at the Window. Let's take a look at this poem. Seeing the snowman standing all alone, in dusk and cold is more than he can bear. The small boy weeps to hear the wind prepare a night of gnashings and enormous moan. His tearful sight can hardly reach to where the pale-faced figure with bitumen eyes returns him such a God-forsaken stare as outcast Adam gave to paradise. The man of snow is nonetheless content, having no wish to go inside and die. Still he is moved to see the youngster cry, though frozen water is his element. He melts enough to drop from one soft eye a trickle of the purest rain, a tear. For the child at the bright pane surrounded by such warmth, such light, such love, and so much fear. Alright, now hold on to your butts, because we're about to get deep. You know, as poetry tends to do. This poem explores the innocent apprehensions of childhood. Richard Wilbur uses a different perspective in each of the 2 stanzas, creating a few ironic surprises that make us reflect about the harsh realities of winter in a whole new way. By using the word boy, as opposed to a particular boy's name, Wilbur clearly suggests the experience that the boy endures is a universal one. This poem is about a little boy, as he looks out his window watching the snowman that he made, and feeling sorry for his creation. Wilbur begins by expressing the boy's feelings for the snowman stuck outside as more than he can bear. Now, I know what you're obviously thinking. This boy's gotta be a little crazy. I mean, he actually thinks that the snowman is alive. Well, while to some people it might be strange for a human being to care about an inanimate object so much, you have to consider that this is a young boy. He's filled with imagination and wonder, as I know all of you were. To an adult, or even an older teen, the snowman is nothing more than just balls of snow stacked on top of one another. A fun little activity to do in the snow, nothing more. However, to this little boy, the snowman that he created is so much more. It's the one he can confide in, the one he can go on adventures with. That snowman that he made is the one who will be there for him no matter what. It's his best friend. Now, I'm sure you've all had a best friend. I'm sure you can think of one now. Just think of how it would feel if your friend was stuck out in a horrible snowstorm, freezing their buns off, with no coat, no jacket, nothing, while you're standing inside, watching them through the window and not able to do anything about it. Probably isn't a very nice thought. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's the perfect payback for the time they swapped out your iPhone password because you were stupid enough to tell them what it was in the first place, or the time that they locked you out in the pouring rain and you almost got hypothermia, or even the time that they... never mind. Anyway, Wilbur continues, further expressing the boy's discomfort of the situation. The small boy weeps to hear the wind prepare, night of gnashings and enormous moan. This boy assumes that the snowman will be miserable, stuck out in the harsh weather. He personifies the snowman, gives it human-like qualities. Gnashings and enormous moan. These are the things that would typically describe a human if trapped by such conditions. Gnashings referring to the gnashings of teeth, as one typically does when faced with such frigid conditions. The snowman, of course, has no teeth, but this does not hinder the boy's imagination. And, needless to say, the snowman is completely incapable of letting out an enormous moan. You know, the whole no lungs or vocal cords thing. Still, the boy does not waver in his beliefs. This child is truly struggling with letting the snowman suffer in the cold while he exists nice and warm within the confines of his bedroom. Wilbur goes on to more clearly describe the conditions of the night by saying, his tearful sight can hardly reach to where. The boy can barely even see the snowman through a mixed volley of scattered snowflakes. Still, he can make out the snowman's, as Wilbur puts it, bitumen eyes. Bitumen meaning black, very black, usually used to refer to asphalt. The boy is crying, and once again gives a human-like quality to his friend, referring to it as pale-faced. Although the snowman is of course pale, cause you know, snow and stuff, the boy does not see that. He sees only the snowman suffering. Okay, now here is where the poem is split, and the tone completely changes. The man of snow is nonetheless content, having no wish to go inside and die. This time it is Wilbur himself personifying the snowman, implying that the snowman has wishes of his own. It appears that Wilbur has taken a childlike approach to writing this poem. This gives the poem a sort of rhythm and flow to it. Rather than writing about the child's perspective, then immediately cutting to his own more mature perspective, Wilbur expresses his thoughts as if from the mind of a child as well. Wilbur continues, still he is moved to see the youngster cry. Here yet again, Wilbur speaks of the snowman as if it were alive, referring to it as a he, keeping the rhythm intact. He proceeds to further express the snowman's personified emotions. He melts enough to drop from one soft eye, a trickle of the purest rain a tear. Just as the child cried for the snowman returns the sentiment by crying for the child, although the snowman is crying for a similar, yet different reason. The child was distressed by the fact that the snowman was trapped in the cold, suffering, unable to avoid the harsh conditions. The snowman, however, is crying because the child cares so much for it, and is experiencing suffering of his own because he cannot help his friend. Both seem to care for the other. The boy's initial feelings for the snowman as a friend are here echoed back to him. This poem shows a wondrous yet chilling glance into the psyche of a child's mind. The simplicity of childhood does not always come with bliss and harmony. To many who have forgotten their childhood, the life of a young boy might seem to be carefree, not a thing to worry about. But Wilbur shows the reader something different. Although his struggle is not one most would find themselves dealing with, it still resonates with the boy as a foreclosure might to an adult. The boy looks on in agony, as he is unable to fix or even attempt to fix the problem he finds himself in. The boy feels helpless, and there's nothing he can do about it. This truly reflects well on Wilbur's understanding of life, and of humans as a whole. Clearly the reader is led to experience more empathy for the boy than for the snowman by the end of the poem. To progressively sympathize more with the snowman too is also guaranteed. The tear it sheds for the boy is not a grief for himself, but a tear for all children who, even amid such security, can look out into the world and sense the danger of the unknown. It might even be possible that this poem comes from a personal experience of Wilbur's. Perhaps, when he was just a boy, Wilbur underwent a similar instance. This would explain his passion for this particular poem, although this of course is just speculation. Still, one thing that is certain is that Wilbur truly delved into the mind of a child and emerged with a masterpiece known as Boy at the Window. Thank you, and good night.